let's go ahead and get down to the game, see how this opening coin flip is going to go and who's going to have that opening turn, who's going to be going first, and it looks like that's going to be Joshua.
Absolutely. I hope we see the fabled 4-for-4 on Crushing Hammerheads. That would be
an
absolute
you want to see
treat
that? Oh my god.
I would like to see it. You know how low the odds are on that? They are astronomically low, man.
Well, I know that
so
Tord
awesome.
definitely does not want to see that because those hammers could play a big role in keeping you off of using that G max rapid flow, which is what you really want to do with Tord's deck. You know, try to set up the position to be able to take multiple prizes in a single turn. As we actually see something pretty interesting here from Joshua. Gonna go ahead and attach the water energy to Zacian, maybe trying to just go ahead and get that in play. You know, you do have the 3 energy switch and trying to play around a potential Marnie from your opponent.
Yeah, very, very, very smart play. Understands that while my Zacian cannot attack for any water energy, it is going to be nice to be able to at least get that into play and then energy switch it off, as we do see is playing, looks like a few copies of the energy switch card in this deck. It looks like playing, let me just take a quick look here. Actually, I don't see any, oh no, there are, yeah, I'm not quite sure if we see any, oh no, there's 3 energy switch, my bad. So, has a lot of options. We do see the Bird Keeper as well, so we'll be able to go ahead and throw that Snorlax up as capture energy coming down onto that Rapid Strike Urshifu. And this looks like a solid textbook turn for Tord, right? Has the Minccino down to play. It looks like going to be able to get another one off of this capture energy. And Gourmandize is just going to refill the hand back up. I love Snorlax. It's such a cool card, reminiscent of that Tropical Beach trainer card released in the World Championships for, I believe, the early 2010 era. Refilling your hand back up to 7. It's such a cool concept to see printed back on a Pokemon as lovable as Snorlax.
And, I mean, looking at this list, it's really similar and honestly might just be the same. I would have to double check with Tord's Players' Cup 3 list, but, I mean, if it's not the same list, it is within 2 or 3 cards of the list that Tord played to that top 4 finish. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Tord seemed to find success in that 3rd Players' Cup with this deck and just decided it was the best play to close out the Battle Styles format here with this deck in Players' Cup 4.
Oh my, look at this start. Triple Minccino, double Rapid Strike Urshifu, Gourmandize for 4. And I mean, while you do find that ADP and the switch as well as the Metal Energy, it just feels like your opponent has done so much. It's just going to be overwhelming sometimes, especially for Joshua in this situation. However, Cherish Ball will be able to thin the deck out a little bit. There is one of those Crushing Hammer and the ability to draw cards with that Professor Research. And yeah, we do see the switch come down, right? So this is going to give Josh a whole bunch of options. There we go. We're on our way, Chip. We are 1 for 4 so far.
This.
I don't want to curse this, but I think what has been said has already been said. There's no going back, Chip, especially with this start from Joshua. I think gonna maybe take a look through the deck. This is the first deck search. Very happy, I assume, to see all 3 of those energy switch in the deck. Is actually only playing 1 copy of Air Balloon, so it's gonna have a little bit less ways to pivot out of the active. Also opting to play a copy of Escape Rope, which is a nice way to maybe get those bigger Pokemon like the Urshifu VMAX out of the active to maybe prey on some of those weaker 90 HP Pokemon like Chinchino or some of the other tech Pokemon in the deck like stuff such as maybe something like the Mewtwo or a Jirachi from Team Up, as well as Galarian Zigzagoon. So there are a lot of options that Escape Rope can bring up. But again, Tord's going to be able to choose. So if there's another Urshifu VMAX on the bench, that will just be an easy switch for him.
And we do see the energy switch drawn there off of the Professor's Research. And Joshua's going to be taking an additional prize card every time a Pokemon takes a knockout for the rest of the game. Exactly what you want to see as the ADP player. Kind of interested that Joshua chose not to bench this other Zacian. I guess the thought process here is that you want to prevent as much as possible the spread damage that Tord could have. You know, limit those spread targets on the bench. So that's probably the thought process there. And actually, something I do want to point out that we saw from Tord on the last turn, actually went ahead and chose to fill the bench all the way up. Normally, you wouldn't want to see a player do that because, you know, you want to have options. Locking your bench, you know, doesn't give you as many options, but Tord is playing 4 copies of Scoop Up Net, so has those options to clear bench spaces again, but also knows that Joshua is actually playing 2 copies of the Mawile GX in his list. So that is a, you know, something you want to play around, want to be mindful of when you can as Tord. If you can fill the bench, your opponent can't pen something like a Jirachi GX or a Dedenne GX into play that you don't want to see.
Look at all these evolution Pokemon. 4 evolutions already, and I don't think we've even seen a supporter card come down yet from Tord. This is looking like an excellent turn, so it's no wonder he decided to play that many Minccino down on the first turn to then utilize the evolution of Cinccino to just draw many more cards. We saw some not so relevant cards, but actually whiffing the switch out. This is going to be big for Joshua. It's going to allow him to take a knockout on the Snorlax and then map his prizes out by taking a 4 prize turn onto one of these Urshifu VMAX in the future. I think that may have been a big miss for Tord here.
Definitely could be. We don't see Tord's hands. So we don't know exactly what he had. I mean, I'll just know based off of what we saw from Tord in Players Cup 3. There were many instances, Ethan, where you and I were casting one of his games and we were like, all right, he's got the switch card. He can go ahead and attack here. And Tord chose to play it slow. Just went with the Gormandize, just, chilled for the turn, passed with Jirachi in the active, something like that. So, it's hard to question Tord, one of the best to ever do it. And, we never really know exactly what he's planning, what he's got up his sleeve.
Yeah, and it may be even harder to get something like that Snorlax out of the active when you can't use any of your 3 Air Balloon in the deck, right? That hefty, I believe, 4 retreat cost on that Snorlax. He is a very big fella, so he is going to be pretty hard to move, just like in the video game. You had to use, I think your flute, right, to wake him up and then get him to move, so he's not very welcoming to moving and getting
Not very
out of the way,
mobile, for sure.
He is definitely not mobile, only when he wants to. I remember the pulverizing pancake Z move. He got up and did some big things, but we are going to see Tord start his turn off. He's got that make do ability, going to get rid of those pieces. Not so necessary anymore, like that Pokemon communication, and actually going to go ahead and put the Rapid Strike energy on the other Urshifu VMAX. Spreading the energies out, understands that, hey, I may need to go in with both of my VMAX Pokemon, either utilizing something like a Bird Keeper or an Air Balloon to switch out. First things first is going to need to apply some pressure here right away, and that's going to be very solid. Not only do you get that out of the active, but you can also evolve the other Minccino on the bench into that Cinccino and draw 2 more cards with that Make Do ability. And it's also going to go ahead and throw that Jirachi onto the bench, which is going to be a great card to maybe find an extra trainer card every turn. Interesting choice to not go ahead and play that down before the scoop up net. I assume probably does not have the other switching effect to get that out of the active. Otherwise, it would make the most sense to go ahead and utilize Stellar Wish, but actually going to see then Marnie get played, and this is going to take Josh's huge, I believe, 10-card hand and throw that to the bottom of the deck, as we featured in that Spotlight video. It is such a powerful card currently.
Absolutely, and we see another powerful card right away. That Crushing Hammer for Joshua definitely could play a factor here. And the game is setting up in a way where Joshua actually could just totally ignore Rapid Strike Urshifu and just chase down Cinccinos and Jirachis to take the 6 prizes needed in order to win the game. Of course, thanks to Ultra Creation, you only need 3 knockouts on those 1 prize Pokemon. That's your 6 prizes right there. So, I mean, with that Quick Ball in hand, as long as Eldegoss is in the deck, which I do believe I remember seeing it, that could be an option that Joshua could go after, and then you just have to try to be able to dig and find boss's orders once again on the next turn.
Yeah, definitely feels scary just leaving 2 Pokemon in play. There is no real consistent way for Tord to go ahead and take this, but I think if this Crushing Hammer does not hit, then it definitely can be scary, but actually just going to go ahead and utilize that Gale Thrust attack, 150 damage to that active ADP, as we do see Quick Ball top deck to Metal Saucer as well, so this just gives even more options to Joshua on what to work with. We do see that Crushing Hammer. I'm sure that will go ahead and get played. I'm still hoping for that 4/4 on the Crushing Hammer heads. If he's able to find all 4 during this game, he does find Eldegoss, so it looks like, Chip, you were right. Wants to go ahead and take display, but only 1 boss's orders left in deck. I think one of them is in the prize cards.
Okay,
potentially
that's
2,
actually kind of interesting to note. Knowing that a boss's orders is in the prize card kind of makes it a little easier of a decision here with this hand, as we thankfully don't see, the multiple Crushing Hammer heads in a game. But yeah, this makes this decision a little bit easier because you have a pretty decent chance, 50-50 here, to take a boss's orders off the prize card, which is all you need to close the game out. Now, Tord could technically get around this play if Tord played 2 scoop up nets to totally clear both of the Cinccinos out of play. And that's something we could see happen. Well, let's see if, I think if Tord had the option, if he finds both scoop up nets, we might see that just take away that potential win condition.
I have to imagine that's what he's looking for here. Another interesting thing I just noticed, Joshua only plays 3 boss's orders in his list. You usually see all 4 because the easy win condition to just go ahead and utilize that, take a knockout on some of those weaker 2-prize Pokemon. And yeah, there it is, the boss's orders. So it's going to be on Tord now to either A, disrupt this hand, does have a copy, I believe, of that reset stamp. actually playing 2 of them. So I assume is going to be looking for that reset stamp to put Joshua down 1 less card in the hand. And then additionally is going to be able to try to find a way to not only knock this ADP out, but potentially put on some more pressure with a G Max Rapid Flow to try to close the game out in a few turns.
Yeah, we'll see what Tord wants to do to navigate this one. Of course, can just retreat to that other Urshifu VMAX on the bench to Gale Thrust. Like you said, yeah, I mean, this Zigzagoon is the key card here. This will allow you to G-Max Rapid Flow, since now you can get that extra damage, 10 damage needed on the active in order to, if you send it to the bench in order to pick up the G-Max Rapid Flow KO, or just do it while it's in the active spot. And I think Tord went ahead and played that Quick Ball before using the Make Do, because Tord wants to try to find those scoop up nets if he can. It will be a little more difficult, though, since Zigzagoon does need to come down in order to get this KO.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if there's another scoop-up net in Tord's deck, if there are 3, if he decides to play down this Zigzagoon. I think he needs to in order to stay in this game, right? You need to take a knockout with G-Max Rapid Flow this turn, and yeah, we do see that come down, so it looks like Tord is most likely going to be unable to take all of those 1 prize, now 2 prize Pokemon with that Altered Creation attack from Joshua's side, as we do see that get Scoop Up netted out of play, and actually just going to go ahead and say, hey, you've done your job, you can now go ahead and take a little bit of rest in the discard pile. Tord is a master of optimization, only uses cards when they're needed, and then once they have done their job, sends them straight to discard pile.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what it's here for. In this matchup, just being able to get that extra 10 damage on the Arceus Dialga Palkia. 150 plus 120 plus 10 equals a KO'd ADP. And we're going to see the Air Balloon onto the active, and the Rapid Strike Energy, and the Reset Stamp. Tord's getting everything he needs, and a Quick Ball there drawn for Joshua, so it is going to be relying here on a Dedenne GX's Dede Change, most likely, to draw through the deck, or a Crobat's Dark Asset in order to try to find that last Boss's Orders. There are actually 2 Boss's Orders remaining in the deck, and that's what this is going to come down to here. Can Joshua find one of those 2 remaining Boss's Orders, bring up one of those Chinchinos, and close out this game?
Absolutely, as we do see that Zacian V is the top deck. There are Metal Energy discard piles, so I think it's just considering whether or not to play down the Zacian V, as it is a potential card for Metal Saucer to thin the deck out. So, I mean, either one of these cards is going to be discarded off Quick Ball, right? I don't think both of these cards are going to be played from the hand, as we do see the opt to bench the Zacian V, and it looks like both a Dedenne and a Crobat in the deck. There are plenty of options to work with.
Oh, yes. So many outs.
You even see him hovering it over it with the mouse, saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for here. Do we see it? 6 cards, and there it is. The Boss's Orders is going to be able to bring up one of those Chinchino. And yeah, Joshua, in a pretty interesting fashion, right? Ignoring all of the VMAX Pokemon, not even taking a single knockout on a GX or V Pokemon for that matter, is going to go ahead and take game number 1, knocking out 3 1 prize Pokemon, and taking game 1 in, yeah, interesting fashion. And it's back to Tord, right? He is, again, never count this man out. He has done the impossible in so many games throughout the history of the Pokemon trading card game. Chip, as we're going to this game, right, what does he need to do to put himself in a better spot? Is it attacking faster, setting the board up? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure.
Definitely needs to be as aggressive as he can be. We don't know the contents of Tord's hand, so don't know if he chose to hold off on the switch card and just played a little slower that one turn that he didn't attack, with the Gale Thrust. I definitely would have liked to have seen it if it was an option for Tord there, but, we'll have to see what he can do in game number 2. I mean, Tord played this deck, like we said, for the Global Finals of Players Cup 3, played it through all the Swiss rounds leading up to this point, so I'm sure Tord has played against plenty of Arceus Dialga and Palkia decks with his Rapid Strike Urshifu deck. So I know that Tord has a game plan. We'll just have to see if he can execute it. And what's going to happen here in game number 2 is it going to be Joshua advancing to the next round, or and sending Tord to the loser's bracket, or is Tord going to force the game number 3? Let's go ahead and get down to the game and see how it's going to play out. I'm excited, Ethan. Hopefully we see a great game between these 2 amazing players.
Yeah, and I'm almost certain here that Tord is going to go ahead and opt to go first. It seems like the most logical line of play. You threaten a Gale Thrust the following turn and give yourself a lot more options. You can even threaten a G-Max Rapid Flow, for that matter, on turn number 2. So Tord having an okay hand. Doesn't have any ability to draw cards besides Intrepid Sword, so it's not threatening the fabled turn 1 altered creation that so many players are frightened of, for that matter, as it just puts on so much aggression, sometimes way too fast in this format, in a format that is already as fast as it is, as we do see an unfortunate starter there. It's not your worst one in the deck. Mewtwo is usually just utilized for that ability when you play it down, and is actually going to go ahead and be air ballooned and retreating that Jirachi. It's going to be a great ability for these next 2 turns, right, as it's not being threatened by an attack this turn, as it does find a Pokemon. Communication's going to go ahead and throw that Jirachi into the deck. Finding one of these couple pieces, I assume we'll at least see a Rapid Strike Urshifu come down. I think that's probably Tord's main card he wants to get into play. Obviously, Cinccino, again, is going to be another crucial card. Drawing cards is the name of the game here, Chip.
Absolutely. Plenty of targets here off of the Pokemon communication. Tord, definitely someone who likes to take time, check the prize cards, which is what you see most of the top-level players doing. And we are going to see both a Rapid Strike Urshifu and a Cinccino coming down, a Minccino, excuse me, ready to become a Cinccino. And Joshua has kind of an interesting choice here. Could be super aggressive and use that Dedenne that he just top-decked to try to dig for this turn 1 altered creation. Does have a couple of water energies left in the deck, so you could either throw the water energy onto the active and try to find one of your 3 energy switch, or just discard this card and try to find one of the 2 remaining water energies. I think I probably would like to see it come into play. I think it's maybe a little more likely, since this energy spinner is getting played here, that you find one of those energy switch cards. And actually maybe debating discarding another metal energy. I don't know how I feel about this. You don't want to put too many down, because then it just becomes a little more difficult to accelerate energies later on in the game. But at the same time, it does increase your odds to hit it. And it does look like Joshua is going to go for this line of play.
Yeah, it's really interesting because now you're forced to find 2 energy switch this turn in addition to a metal saucer and that ADP. So that's really the interesting line of play here, as we do see this hand is not the best, right? Does have the ability to evolve both of those key Pokemon, but besides there is going to be pretty much relying on that Make Do and that Stellar Wishes.
Oh my gosh, he drew into it! Oh no, doesn't have the metal saucer.
No metal saucer. And additionally, no, he would need 2 energy switch, right? The energy switch to get the water off the active, and he would need the
Okay, I got a little ahead of myself.
Saucer.
My bad.
Yeah, it's still a very nice spot to be in, right? You can at least energy switch this energy on to that Arceus-style Gunpolkia. You can retreat into it if you choose to, and it just opens up a lot of possibilities. We could even see something like the boss's orders be played if Joshua wants to play a little bit more aggressive. Not only does it take the Jirachi out of the active, but additionally, it also forces him to have 2 switching cards, one to get this active out of the position, and then, well, has the Mewtwo with the air balloon, but assuming you utilize the air balloon to retreat this VMAX when it does evolve, we see Tord has that in hand, then you have to find yourself a scoop up net, so it just makes things a little bit more tough. So I like this play here from Joshua. You're not going to be using boss the following turn. You have the ability to boss 3 more times, right, with 2 boss's orders and an Eldegoss, assuming you don't discard any. So this opens up a lot of possibilities, as there we go. Make Do, so we don't know what the top deck was. That reset stamp was the 3rd card in his hand additionally, such as the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. So we'll be looking for a lot of cards. Birdkeeper is going to be an important card, really looking for that fighting energy or that Rapid Strike energy this turn. We'll see if Tord was able to find it off of this Birdkeeper. If need be, can utilize something like that Stellar Wish. However, Tord is not playing any cards besides the Dene GX stick to the deck, and it feels so poor here, Chip, to play that down as an easy target for Joshua to take a knockout with it. With either something like Ultimate Ray, even Mawile can take a knockout if Tord's bench is full, so it's just going to open up even more possibilities for Josh to close this game out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it almost feels inconsequential to put Dedenne down in this instance, because, I mean, as we saw last game, Joshua was just pretty easily able to pick off these Pokemon on the bench and ignore the VMAXs, which with Dedenne in play is kind of the same thing, right? It doesn't matter if you're taking the knockout on a 1 prize Pokemon or a 2 prize Pokemon. Whenever you're getting those extra prize cards, it'll still come out to the same amount of knockouts needed in order to win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Does find that key Rapid Strike energy. With this bench, though, is unable to get down another Urshifu VMAX. We'll have to scoop up something like that Mewtwo out of play, I'm sure, or that Jirachi seem like the 2 most, I guess, Pokemon that don't necessarily need to be in play, as we do see that Gale Thrust dealing 150 damage. So far, no metal energy in hand, but has plenty of ways to draw cards. Marnie is going to be the key supporter. We see some of these ADP lists opt to play Marnie, some of them don't, and oh, wow, there's actually no metal energy in this hand. Is actually going to have to be forced to potentially discard another water energy. And, I mean, Crushing Hammer here could be pretty big. You can't actually dig any more with this hand, so we'll see if this Crushing Hammer hits, but it looks like commentator's curse here, Chip. None of these hammers have been hitting since the end of game number 1 and so far in game number 2.
And we will still see the Dedenne GX, so still can't dig for the metal energy.
Yeah.
There it is, comes down, and another Crushing Hammer, and does hit this one. That is certainly huge. Joshua's in a little bit more precarious of a position in this game compared to game number 1. Of course, Joshua last time was able to get off Alter Creation before Tord ever even attacked. We see now there's already 160 total damage in play on Joshua's side, and now Alter Creation is finally being played. And also, interestingly enough, 2 Dedenne GX in play, which are pretty easy one-hit KO targets for Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX.
Yeah, I forgot that Dedenne was down the following turn, was used to try to push for that turn 1 Alter Creation, didn't quite get there, so again, Cherish Ball was able to find that, go ahead and discard the hand, and got rewarded with that metal energy to go ahead and use Alter Creation for that full effect, as we do see the Bird Keeper get played. So that's going to go ahead and throw that Mewtwo into the active, draw some more cards, and it looks like just really trying to find himself that fighting energy. As you said, 2 Rapid Strike energy are in the discard pile as well, so that's going to be another piece Tord needs to make sure he can preserve those last 2 Rapid Strike energy. Only playing 2 fighting energy as well, so there are 4 more energy in this deck that Rapid Strike Urshifu can attack with Gale Thrust for. Can obviously utilize one of those 4 capture energy to fulfill that G-Max Rapid Flow attack in combination with a Rapid Strike energy. So there's a lot of options, but Tord needs to find one of those fighting energy or Rapid Strikes this turn to put aggression on. We do see one of those Chinchino may do, I believe, away. I didn't quite see, I think it was a capture energy if I'm not mistaken. And we also see another Urshifu get grabbed. So this could signal maybe something like a scoop up net here, especially with that Jirachi coming into the active. Stellar Wish, a great ability again, Chip. It's been so popular and prominent ever since its release, in the Team Up expansion. And it's going to grab any trainer card off the top 5. And honestly, such a cool concept of a card, similar to the old Jirachi that was printed years and years ago.
Yeah, very reminiscent of that old Jirachi from EX Deoxys. This one a little bit different since you can only get a trainer card off of the top, as we do see Air Balloon being the choice here for Tord. And we'll see if there is indeed, yes, a scoop up net to move that out of the active spot. And the only missing piece here for Tord to be able to attack is the fighting energy, which we see fulfilled with that Rapid Strike energy coming down to the active and the bench of the other Rapid Strike Urshifu V, getting that ready to go potentially. And, you know, I mean, things are looking pretty decent for Tord, honestly, in this spot. As long as there isn't a Crushing Hammer played from Joshua and a heads hit, Tord will be able to take a multi-prize turn next turn, potentially, with the G-Max Rapid Flow.
Crushing Hammer, it crushes dreams here, Chip, and that would be exactly what would happen to Tord if that Hammerheads flipped correctly. And we do see 2 more are in the deck, so Joshua can combine this with something like a Boss's Orders if he can find the necessary pieces, and I think that may be what we're seeing with this dig. You can go ahead and switch into that Zacian, play the Metal Saucer down, maybe onto something like the Mawile. That's a perfect target to go ahead and take a knockout on one of these more frail, fragile, one-price Pokemon. Can easily take a knockout on that Chinchino or that Mewtwo as well, with that bench being full. So I have to assume Joshua's trying to look for that. You would limit your options. You cannot play Eldegoss since the bench would be full, but there are still 2 Boss's Orders in the deck. Big 5 cards off Crobat, and there it is. The Boss's Orders is going to be a big key piece. Doesn't find the energy, but with this Boss's Orders, Mawile can take a knockout. There is no Crushing Hammer heads, but this still will allow the Mawile to attack the turn after, but this is where things get very scary, especially with these prizes mapped out very nicely for Tord. G-Max Rapid Flow can take a 5-prize turn the following turn, and then all Tord needs is a Boss's Orders to knock out any of these fighting weak 2-prize Pokemon on the bench.
Yeah, I think as Joshua, you have to dig for the Crushing Hammer here. You just have to do it. I mean, if you allow Tord to take the 5-prize turn on the next turn, it is very difficult for you to ever be able to close this game out. So, I mean, I think that's just really going to be the only option. You got to go ahead and dig either with the research or the Marnie. It's unfortunate you have to discard so many supporters, but you got to give yourself as much card draw as possible here. You can see Joshua's unsure exactly what to do, and when in doubt, go for the crushing hammer line. That's what it seems like is happening, and we see 2 hammers drawn here. Just needs one of these to be heads. Also has the Metal Energy and also the Great Catcher as well to work with potentially to target down that Dedenne GX to get a knockout if Joshua wants to. That could play around the potential Cheryl on Tord's side. We do know that Tord plays 2 copies of that card, and that is one of the main strategies of his version of the deck. Here's Crushing Hammer number 1. Tails needs to hit a heads here. Let's see it. Let's hit the heads. That is going to keep Tord off of that multi-prize turn, which is exactly what Joshua needed to have happen this turn.
Yeah, and this is actually excellent for Joshua. Assuming that hammerheads did not flip, I like holding the energy because if it doesn't flip any heads, then you know both of those targets are going to be knocked out the following turn most likely, so it makes the most sense to go ahead and attack with this ADP. But now, since one of them hit heads, holding this energy is going to be great, especially because of this 3-prize turn that can be taken because of that bench being full. While hitting for 160 with a full bench, or with 4 Pokemon in play due to the boosted Ultra Creation. But Dedenne has resistance to Metal-type Pokemon, so because of that last bench Pokemon being in play, 190 minus 20, just barely picking up the knockout onto that Dedenne GX. So we'll see what gets discarded here. I would like to see the second Mawile. You're already down so many Metal Energy that it doesn't really feel great to have to discard them, but I'm not quite sure why you would keep the Mawile around. There's no other 3-prize Pokemon left in play. I think there maybe is something like that other Rapid Strike Urshifu, but it just feels like you need the bench space going forward. But we will still see that Dedenne get brought up. Mawile comes into the active. Tord understands, or excuse me, Joshua understands that now there's no reason to promote my ADP. Gmax Rapid Flow is not on board for the following turn, so this is a perfect position for Joshua, especially the Wily Bite taking the knockout. It's awesome to see this Mawile used not only as a support Pokemon, but as a solid attacker to either pick up 2-hit knockouts on to these big tag team Pokemon and on these VMAX Pokemon, as well as a nice attacker to finish off something like the Dedenne GX and Crobat.
Yeah, I think Joshua was really struggling with what to discard there on the Great Catcher because Mawile, while it's, probably unlikely that you're going to get much use out of Captivating Wink at this point, the ability there that most people play the card for, it is your most efficient attacker. And when you're running low on energy, it can attack for just 2 energy, and it can also use a colorless energy, meaning it can utilize one of the water energies that ADP has to utilize for Altered Creation. So I think that's kind of the thought process that was going through Joshua's mind there, why he wanted to hang on to the Mawile and keep it around moving forward in this game. But things are going to be a little awkward for Joshua. It feels like he's in a great spot, of course, is winning on the prize trade right now, but still has to take 2 knockouts, still at minimum needs 2 attacks in order to win the game. So you're going to have to either go boss's orders, knock something out, or you're going to have to go 2-hit KO one of these Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAXs. And if you're relying on 2-hit KOing a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX when Tord has a hand that is already this massive, you gotta imagine that damage is just gonna get Cheryled away.
Absolutely. We see that Cheryl has not hit the discard pile, unlike game number 1. It didn't matter in that first game when Joshua played around hitting a VMAX for the entirety of game number 1. That Fighting Energy is a big, crucial piece. Tord is down, I believe, 3 Rapid Strike Energy now, so only has 2 more energy in the deck that can fulfill that Gale Thrust attack cost. This one's going to be big. However, Joshua's not going to be removing any other energy for the rest of the game, unless he takes a knockout, which in that case would win the game straight out. So, this is a pretty solid position for both players. I think both players feel like they have a good board standing, but it's really going to come down more so if Josh can find the key pieces to target down these Pokemon as quickly as possible. But a big-time top deck there. Professor's Research is going to be able to draw Josh, that many more cards. And this Mawile is also going to be hitting for a solid chunk of damage. However, Gmax Rapid Flow just feels so scary, especially with the threat of Cheryl coming down next turn.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to be close here. What's going to happen? Joshua is going to be getting off the attack and, be putting on the pressure to Tord. But if Tord can find that combination of cards you mentioned, healing with the Cheryl, or if Tord's able to get the Gmax Rapid Flow off, I mean, it feels like Tord's in a decent spot here.
I feel like you have to research if you're Joshua. You need to find that boss the following turn.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if you don't, then your opponent just goes in with the other Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, and
Oh
now
my
you're in a
gosh.
really poor position. So
Joshua
opting to not.
almost timed out there just
Oh
at the
wow.
last second, 1 second remaining on the clock, went with the Wily Bite. I mean, you can tell Joshua is really struggling with how to navigate this game. I mean, it's tough whenever you're not only playing against what can be a tough matchup, I feel like, as far as, all the healing options that your opponent has, but also one of the game's greats.
Yeah, another awesome thing that we get to see through this client that we don't get to see, or we see, I guess, more in IRL play, is really the thought process between Joshua. You see him hovering around the prizes, trying to map out how Tord's going to take them, hovering through cards in the deck. You really get to see a lot about these players and how they make their decision making, checking the discard pile as we do see actions start on Tord's turn. He's going to be able to draw some cards with Make Do, start to build his board up, and I have to imagine either looking for Cheryl or some other way to attack with this VMAX on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough. If Tord wants to Gmax Rapid Flow, then Tord can't use Cheryl. But if Tord wants to Cheryl, then Tord can't use Gmax Rapid Flow. So it's kind of a tough position, honestly. What we might have to see is just the Cheryl plus the Gale Thrust with the benched Urshifu VMAX, provided that is what is grabbed here off of this Pokemon communication. And if you can do that, you set up a situation where next turn you can close out the game with a Gmax Rapid Flow, regardless of what your opponent does, because now you know your opponent's down all those dreaded Crushing Hammers.
I don't think Tord has the energy left to do that. I believe there's only one Rapid Strike energy left in the deck. Or actually, he may have two energy perfectly left. So he
Right,
would have
and
the
can also
necessary
use
energy,
Rapid Strike
yeah.
energy plus Capture energy, right,
Capture
for
energy
Gmax
as
Rapid
well,
Flow.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah. So there are options there. There are possibilities for Tord to make this work. The big key piece, I think, has to take that route to Cheryl. Otherwise, your opponent is potentially sitting on a board. You can play more aggressive too. I think it really comes down to how many Metal Saucer Joshua's down. And again, discarded so many energy early that turn, even grabbed an additional one off that energy spinner. So maybe Joshua biting his tongue a little bit, saying, maybe I shouldn't grab that extra energy. That could have been really clutch here in this potential turn, but there we go. Grabs the Cheryl off of Jirachi. Tord's got to be happy. Didn't even have it in the hand. It was one of those last 10 cards remaining in the deck, so hitting that 50-50, finding that Cheryl, and I assume Tord will most likely play it, but has a lot of options, and you know Tord is going to take his time, think through these plays, and we do see the Cheryl, so I assume Scoop Up Net will come out as well from Tord. We'll be able to pick up that Jirachi, throw this Urshifu VMAX in the active, and start dealing some damage, setting up for game the following turn. Or did I actually calculate the energies wrong? I think, if I saw that correct, there were 2 Fighting Energy and 3 Rapid Strike Energy in there, so I mean, you do have, I believe there maybe been 1 more Capture Energy, so I think Tord has to hope that that last Capture Energy is not prized. We'll take a look here through there. So yes, 1 more Capture Energy in deck, and it looks like there is actually another fighting, but
Oh,
Tord is
I
actually going to
like
take a
this.
smart play, yes. The energy
Assist here.
assist.
Gonna be able to
Yeah.
pick up the KO here on the Mawile and also get the energy accelerated to this Urshifu on the bench. And, maybe Tord is doing this because there is, potentially Rapid Strike energy in the prize cards, maybe that other basic fighting energy in the prize cards. So this is gonna give Tord plenty of options. You take this prize, you force your opponent now to find boss's orders in order to win the game, and your opponent is down both the Denes, Crobat, plus the Eldegoss in the discard pile. So Tord really just taking full advantage of the fact that he knows exactly what his opponent has access to. I think Joshua here, I mean, even if you top deck boss's orders, you can hit a VMAX, but what else is that going to do for you?
Exactly. So Rapid Strike Energy would give Tord the game in this position.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way for Joshua to finish this game out, right? There is no 2 prize Pokemon, or 3 prize Pokemon for that matter, that can be knocked out from something like Alter Creation, that is boosted by Alter Creation, rather. This Zacian V is only dealing a maximum of 260 damage. We will actually see the Mawile come down, and I mean, you can retreat into the ADP, but from there, again, there's not really much you can do to prevent Tord from finding that Rapid Strike energy. Will be able to draw through most of his deck the following turn, and with the combination of something like the Make Do ability, can even utilize the Mewtwo to find some more cards with something like the Bird Keeper out of the deck, or even Marnie. So I think Tord will have the ability to look through most of his deck if he does not already have that Rapid Strike energy in hand or grabbed it off the prize cards.
And we will just see the Mawile come up, take the KO here, and this is going to be it. Does Tord have that Rapid Strike energy? If not, Joshua has the pieces in hand to win the game. Tord can't knock out this Mawile in one hit. Joshua has Boss's orders ready to go. Of course, you could get reset stamped to 1, but let's see if Tord finds that Rapid Strike energy or not. And there it is right away. Plays it down, and G-Max Rapid Flow gonna be taking a 5-prize turn, knocking out both Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, and Zacian V on the bench. And Tord forces a game 3 here, says, I'm not quite done yet. We got another game to play. Tord is hungry for this one and is definitely looking to get a win here and send Joshua down to the loser's bracket.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic play from both of those players. I feel they routed their maps and prizes very, very well. They knew what they were doing, and while they both had tough decisions to make, they closed it out very nicely. I think Tord, again, showing us how important it is to put on aggression much faster than he did in game number 1. And Cheryl, I think, the key MVP in that last turn of the game before Tord closed it out. Able to heal all the damage off. You know, Tord loves to play that card, similar to the Acerola card back in the Sun and Moon Burning Shadows expansion that Tord used in some of his Zoroark GX builds. So we'll see, Chip. I think the main key pieces, again, are going to be how fast each player puts on aggression. Can we see some play from Joshua to maybe target up these Rapid Strike Urshifus quicker than possible? Maybe you just hit into them and force your opponent to find the Cheryl earlier on. So there are so many different routes that both these players can take, and this is an important game, Chip. Game number 3. The player who wins this is going to stay in the winner's bracket. It's going to be a lot easier for them to route out their victory into the global finals, while the loser will have to battle it out in the treacherous loser's bracket. So let's go ahead and get into this game number 3 between both of these players. It's going to be, again, Joshua up against Tord. Josh will be on the bottom of your screen, Tord on the top. And we'll see Josh is going to be able to go first, so this is going to be a big advantage. We'll be able to alter creation, assuming he finds all the pieces necessary in order to get, again, that metal and water energy requirement before Tord can put on any damage besides maybe something like the first attack on the Urshifu V, that strafe attack to deal 30 damage. It could set up some nice math, so we'll see exactly what happens.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the situation that Josh wants to be in, going first in this matchup. The one unfortunate thing about this hand specifically is there is no energy to attach for turn, which is really what you want to see in order to make it much easier to pull off the altered creation on the next turn. And kind of interesting to go ahead and see the escape rope here from Joshua. That actually could be kind of relevant because that strafe damage that you mentioned, it's not super relevant on Zacian, but it could be very relevant on Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, because that could mean that, you know, if Tord doesn't have access to Zigzagoon on a specific turn, or maybe it's in the prize cards, that is now a way for Tord to get that extra little bit of damage needed in order to pick up the, you know, the math combo of being able to KO with G-Max Rapid Flow plus Gale Thrust. But Tord only has a fighting energy and just has to go with the strafe. Joshua could actually just potentially win the game here.
Oh no, look at that hand, Chip. There are no cards that are playable there. Just a few scoop up nets and some other recovery cards, but I think if Joshua finds a metal energy and a metal saucer, we'll be able to take a knockout. We'll still need to find the pivoting option, so interesting choice to not go ahead and switch into that Mawile. That would open up the ability for something like Air Balloon to be a pivot option there, as we do see a Tails on that Crushing Hammer, so not out of it quite yet, but this is where things can definitely get scary. Has the water energy, but again, no way to switch that metal energy off of that bench Zacian. So I think Joshua understands that Tord is in top deck mode, so it potentially makes the most sense to just try to go ahead and power this Zacian up on the bench, and assuming Tord does not top deck anything, it'll be a quick victory for Josh.
Definitely, and that's exactly what Josh is thinking here. You still have the other spinner, grab the other water energy, so you can still dig for the Alter Creation on the next turn, potentially, if that is a line that opens up. And right away, Joshua finds the switch, has the energy. It's going to be up to Tord. Can Tord top deck something playable here? If the answer is no, Joshua's going to steal a quick game number 3 here in what has been a very back and forth set, and Tord does find the capture energy here, which will allow Tord to at least stick around a little bit longer, but I mean, Tord is still going to need a lot of help in this one.
I mean, you find the capture energy here, but what do you grab off the capture energy? You know every other card in Tord's hand is pretty much unplayable. I mean, you can find Jirachi, but then you're discarding all the energy attached to your active, and banking off something like Stellar Wish. And we know the most popular supporter card in Tord's deck is that Bird Keeper. So while you will be able to draw some more cards, you're throwing up that Urshifu V that already you really don't want in the active. So we will be able to at least see the retreat into that Jirachi. So this is going to be a big Stellar Wish for Tord. What does this find? 5 cards, any trainer card needs to at least find a way to maybe get some Pokemon into play, maybe get something like a Bird Keeper, and then try to find like a Snorlax or something. I don't know. Tord is just on the back foot so quickly. We may even see Joshua just go straight in with the Zacian and then Alter Creation later on when it's necessary.
I mean, what could happen here actually for Tord is if, this, Jirachi finds a decent draw support or some option, you could find a switch card plus the VMAX and just get a Gale Thrust off right away onto this Arceus Dialga Palkia, and that puts a lot of pressure onto Joshua when Joshua hasn't even been able to use Altered Creation yet. Like, would Joshua even at that point want to commit those extra energies in order to use Altered Creation on an Arceus Dialga Palkia that's already so heavily damaged? It's definitely a tough spot potentially, but we'll see what Tord wants to do here as far as digging, and it is going to be the Dedenne GX grabbed out of the deck off of this Quick Ball. Of course, Dede changed that ability we see in so many decks. Just such a great consistency option when you're already playing multiple Quick Balls in your list. Any Quick Ball becomes an out to draw cards, which is why the card is so powerful.
Yeah, Reset Stamp putting the hand down, but I think Joshua is like, thank you for that. Now I have the Water Energy and the Energy Switch to go ahead and threaten something like an Alter Creation the following turn. But as you said, Joshua has many routes to play the following turn. An unfortunate discard is going to have to get rid of one of those Rapid Strike Energy as well as that Ordinary Rod to go ahead and throw things back into the deck later on in the game, such as those Fighting Energy and maybe a 1/1 Chinchino line or the Mewtwo or other pieces that have to get discarded due to something like Make Do or the Dene, as we just saw down with that Dede change ability. As you said, if Tord can find the switching out and that VMAX, I think the 2 cards looking for, as you said, obviously the VMAX needs that to attack, but then something like a Bird Keeper is really the only other way besides Scoop Up Net. But again, Tord has not played the supporter for turn, so has multiple routes and options to take when it comes to what to do, and also most likely wants to get down some of those Chinchinos because, or Minchinos rather, but Quick Ball's going to be a good start, right? It's going to be able to grab any basic out of the deck, and Tord's got to get something started, but I believe in Tord. Tord has definitely showed us how even in poor situations, he can find a way to really wrestle himself out of there. But talk about poor situations, not even finding VMAX or another bench Pokemon besides that Minchino means there'll be no Gmax Rapid Flow in on board, rather, if Joshua can find something like a Switch and a Boss's Orders to take a knockout with his Zacian V on that Urshifu.
Yeah, I think as Joshua here, you're pretty content to just take the turn to use Altered Creation, even though, Tord drew out of the kind of bad start that he was having. You still want to use Altered Creation. You could go aggressive, like you were mentioning, and dig for that, KO onto the Urshifu on the bench, and it wouldn't be that bad of a play, but with only 1 Boss's Orders in the deck, oh, was there actually one in the discard pile already? That maybe makes it a little more likely if there's one in the discard pile, because then you could just grab Eldegoss here. But I think I like the decision here from Joshua. Just play for the Altered Creation, play your game. If things go according to plan like they did in game number 1, you're going to come out on top in this scenario as long as things play out the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. So just taking a look through the deck, as you said, I don't know if one of those Boss's Orders are in the discard pile, so that could definitely be a big thing, considering grabbing that Eldegoss. Could also grab another copy of Mawile. There are a lot of grabs here that can be made, but it looks like actually going to go ahead and grab the Eldegoss. And while Josh is taking his time, that ding, ding, ding from the timer is putting a lot of pressure on, as we are actually going to see the Water Energy and the Energy Switch come down. And I don't know what Josh does, especially if he grabs something like that Eldegoss. I think it's just going to be content utilizing Altered Creation for the turn and then having plenty of possibilities and options to work with the following turn. Boss's Orders can maybe dig through the deck more with some research, use that a change, and Joshua wants to just give himself as many possibilities and options as possible for the following turn.
And the way that Joshua's early game played out, there actually are 2 Boss's Orders in the discard pile, and Josh only plays 3 copies of the card. So that means that Josh can actually only use Boss's Orders 2 more times this game. Once via the Eldegoss, and once via, the one that is left in deck. Unless you went for something like a Float Up at some point, which I don't anticipate we would see, but, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It can technically KO the Jirachi, but But what this means for Joshua is that it's going to be much harder to use that game one strategy of bossing down those Pokemon on the bench. You almost need for Tord to miss for another turn and have to leave one of these one prize easy KO Pokemon in the active spot. And that's the way that you could, play that game plan of knock out the active and then boss's orders for the win.
Yeah, absolutely here. I think grabbing that Marnie, we may see that get played, especially after opponent grabbed one of those Eldegoss. You know they only have one boss in deck and two in discard piles. So smart play from Tord. Maybe understands that's his best option to try to limit the amount of pressure Joshua can put on with Boss's Orders, such a powerful card seen in practically every deck right now in the standard format. It's been printed throughout time with Lysander, even back on an item card with Pokemon Catcher back in the old days in the black and white era. As we do see Pokemon Communication gonna get played, we'll be able to find any Pokemon out of the deck. I assume this will maybe find that Urshifu VMAX. There it is. So we'll see that go ahead and get evolved. And now it really just comes down, right? Tord has, I believe, two scoop up nets down. So, I mean, do you Marnie here bank off of finding one of your two left in a 30-card plus deck? I'm not quite sure here, Chip.
And I mean, it depends on what's in the hand, and it looks like that's the route that Tord has to go with. Off of these 5 cards, really needs to find the switching card, which the only thing working for him here, since Jirachi is asleep, is going to be that scoop up net. Air Balloon not an option, can't retreat while you are asleep. No escape boards left in the standard format for Jirachi to be partnered with, unfortunately. Let's see if Tord has it. If not, oh, that is just such a big whiff. And Joshua now in a great spot, gets the energy switch, can bring it up to the active, and is going to be able to try to play the game out exactly like I mentioned, where you just go knock out the Jirachi here, boss Chinchino, or Dedenne. And now that the Dedenne's in play, it makes it even easier because that's a great catcher target.
Absolutely here, and playing the energy switch wants to play a little bit safer. I maybe would have liked to see him. I mean, in this position, you can play a little bit riskier because you have that leeway. I feel it's a lot better to try to get used out of your water energy, but Chip, speak of water energy, they did not want to show up today. They are not in the deck. Most of them maybe being prized, in a smart decision there from Josh is going to be able to utilize that, but no heads in the crushing hammer. That could have been another big key piece, to slow Tord down even more in a game where he's already so behind your Chip, doesn't even have the ability to put any pressure on besides a strafe on turn 1.
Yeah, definitely. And Joshua's in a great spot. Going to get to accelerate some energies here with the Ultimate Ray. I think just kind of debating. I mean, it's a little awkward of a hand. You drew into all of your remaining support Pokemon besides the Eldegoss. So it makes it a little difficult to dig on the next turn for that boss's orders. And Josh is kind of, Josh is a very good player. He's planning things out, knows exactly how this game needs to go. He needs to find boss, needs to find, great catcher or Eldegoss, some combination of those gusting cards. And if he can do that, he'll be in a great spot. If he can't, though, that really opens up the door for Tord.
Yeah, and has plenty of metal energy this time, unlike in game number 2, where a lot of them got discarded and had to rely on Metal Saucer. I believe is only down 1 to 2 Metal Saucer as well, so this is going to be perfect, especially after taking some more prize cards. Marnie and one of those water energies, that's going to be a perfect card to throw onto the Small Wild, or can even throw it on the ADP, and then from there, maybe energy switch off one of those metal energy. I believe still has 1 to 2 copies of those left in the deck, but Tord's going to go ahead and start the turn off, promoting that Urshifu VMAX, has that Air Balloon, so something's going to need to get switched at one point here, so it makes the most sense to bring that air ballooned target up. As we see, they first make do, and there we go, make do, I believe, number 2. Is going to go ahead and get rid of another card from the hand, draw 2 more cards for Tord, and has a lot of stuff to work with, but needs to apply pressure quickly, and even if he does, this just doesn't feel like a great position to be in.
Is going to be able to get a solid hit off here with the Gale Thrust. I mean, Tord's, without a doubt, on the back foot, but Tord's been in many come from behind positions with this, since playing the Pokemon trading card game, and also with this deck. This deck is definitely a little bit slower than kind of the more standard Jirachi engine build of Rapid Strike Urshifu. So we'll have to see what Tord can make happen. We're going to see, at minimum here, a Gale Thrust. And what does Tord want to grab with this communication? Is it time to go ahead and bench another Urshifu V? I don't think you're super pressured to put it in play, but you do probably want it at some point, so might as well go ahead and do it now. I guess it also gives you the option to just, attack with a different one next turn as opposed to needing to find, Switch plus Cheryl, something like that. So maybe it is a pretty good time to put it down.
Yeah, it feels like the easiest way to just string Gale Thrust and G-Max Rapid Flow back and forth. And I think Tord recognizing that as he goes ahead and grabs the Urshifu V, wants to go ahead and throw that on the bench, and is actually going to go ahead and Rapid Strike Energy the benched Urshifu, and is content with Gale Thrusting this turn. And then maybe if this active Urshifu VMAX takes damage, it would be a perfect time to go ahead and Cheryl and then string together that with a G-Max Rapid Flow. But unfortunately for, for Tord, Joshua has the boss's orders. Looks like Top Deck did for the turn, so this is going to leave even more possibilities. I think we may be seeing this bring up something like that Chinchino on the bench, but it looks like eyeing up the Urshifu V, but I think maybe recognizing I can boss this up, take the prizes on it, and then from there, Great Catcher is another option for me to go ahead and take these last prizes.
Yeah, definitely. I think Chinchino is certainly the way you want to go with this one. Take the knockout here, and then, it does a couple things. One, it means that you're not getting reset stamped to 1. Josh doesn't even have the knockout in hand yet on that Urshifu on the bench. Would need to play Dedenne or Crobat to dig for it. But 2, by taking this knockout, you're, like I said, not getting reset stamped down to just 1 card. If you're taking that 3-prize knockout, going down to 1 card and getting reset stamped to just the 1 is pretty tough. So I'm sure we're going to see Tord dig for the stamp here. Did have to discard 1 earlier on in the game in that, super clunky opening hand. But Joshua is certainly in the driver's seat. It's going to be up to Tord to find a way to navigate back into this game.
Yeah, and especially as long as Joshua does not bench any of those 2-prize fighting weak Pokemon like Dedenne or Crobat, there's no way for Tord to consistently string this game together. G-Max Rapid Flow can take the knockout on the active and pressure one of those bench Pokemon, but then from there, even if you put together another G-Max Rapid Flow, you're not taking a knockout on any other Pokemon in play, so you're unable to close the game out. That's why Joshua smartly is avoiding benching these 2-prize fighting weak Pokemon, as we do see the Urshifu VMAX get evolved. That capture energy means not only will a Pokemon get grabbed from the deck, but additionally, we'll also be able to set up a G-Max Rapid Flow for this turn, opting to not play any Pokemon down, and this is a big reset stamp to 2 from Josh. Finds the Great Catcher! That's huge! With the top deck for turn, that means Joshua will be able to bring up this Dedenne GX as long as he has the energy in play, which we already see 3 on that Zacian V. This is a big time grab for Joshua. Will be able to promote this Zacian in the active, start the turn out, and then due to that top deck for turn, Great Catcher and those 2 necessary cards to discard it for the effect, we'll be able to bring this to Dedenne GX up, and Joshua will go ahead and take this set 2-1, another nail-biter Game 3 situation. Joshua will go ahead and close it out, advancing to the next round in the winner's bracket. Tord, in an upset almost, is going to go ahead and get bumped down to the loser's bracket in round number 1, Chip.